88 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his leg set on the bruiser.
Hulk Hogan. Number one, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.
Welcome in to another edition of the Retro Wrestling Rewind. As always, I'm David Fine, alongside the true Long Island IC, Alex G. Man, Royal Rumble 1994. Yeah, that's all I can say is Royal Rumble 1994. Wait, I mean, were you even born in 1990? What year were you born? 92?
82.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was associating you being super young, but that's the 22-year-old jackass that I work with at work who seems to know everything, but that's just
He clearly has no penis.
I'm not sure, but he'd probably show it to me because he's that friendly. I'm just saying. He's very touchy-feely, but that's not with me, thank God. But 1994, before we get into Royal Rumble, I mean, the landscape of professional wrestling back in 1994, kind of just tell the people listening, what was your take on the landscape? I mean, not just WWF, but, WCW, anything around wrestling back in 1994?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not gonna say I stopped watching WWF in 1994, but I was definitely more invested in WCW, starting in late '93. Basically, when the Bischoff era started, I started really getting into WCW. I followed WWF, but I wasn't watching regularly. It's like I wasn't catching up on all the superstars. Obviously, I would watch Raw, but 94 is rough. 94 is rough. 95 is rough. And half of 96 is pretty rough. Some of 97 is rough. Now it's a rough time for the WWF here. As WCW is making some strides and making some changes, culminating in the acquisition of Hulk Hogan in the summer of 1994. So again, this is a WWF without Hulk Hogan. Again, the best thing that Hulk Hogan ever did was to go to WCW, and it was the best thing for the WWF because, as we all know, Vince McMahon was addicted to the Hulk Hogan, and he's the type of guy that, hey, business is down. Oh, we're just gonna have him beat Diesel. Oh, bring Hogan back to beat Shawn. I'll get business back up. It wasn't going to work. And for Hogan, it was his ability to start drawing again, becoming relevant in terms of WCW. And yes, they were booing him out of the building. But that first buy rate for Bash 94 was the record-setting buy rate for WCW up until that point. So obviously, Hulk Hogan, as a drawing card, still had some things left in the tank. Now, obviously, it would explode once he turns heel in Bash the Beach 96. But again, WWF at this time, very transitional. We're chock full of new generation, which was awful. Just from a storyline perspective, from a gimmick perspective, from Lex Luger losing all the big matches perspective. The only thing they basically had that was cool was the ascension of Kevin Nash, which is Diesel at the time. So he was able to win all the belts in 1994, and he was definitely the guy to watch going into 1995.
Yeah, I mean, 1994, I did not really watch WWF. I was more of a WCW fan because, growing up, living in Atlanta.
It was just a better show overall. I mean, I liked a lot of the stuff they were doing. Again, the pre-Hogan Bischoff era is really cool. You have Steve Austin as United States champ. You have Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat back at it again. You have Vader around. You got Rick Rude doing Rick Rude type stuff. He's being awesome. Sting's still in the mix. So it's really fascinating time for WCW in the end of '93 going into '94.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
I would have liked to see that continue. And I say if Hogan didn't come,
yeah,
I wonder what they would have went with. Would they went with Steve Austin as a top guy? Do you see more Vader? Do you see a Sting have a resurgence in popularity? Like, where do they go? Obviously, probably Nash and Hall would end up coming, and how would their effect be without the Hulkster?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely weird. Let's kind of get into the card. the first match that you saw was your man Tatanka taking on
the Native American Tatanka.
Now,
don't forget that this takes place at the Providence Civic Center. Again, when business is down, the WWF would often retreat back into the Northeast.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
you don't see a lot of big shows and a lot of house shows in the tri-state area. So obviously, we're talking about the Northeast, talking about New York, New Jersey, Boston, obviously Connecticut, Rhode Island, the whole New England area. So obviously business is down. So they're going to retreat back into the Northeast here. They only did, but it's a respectable 14-5. Now, how much of that was papered? We have to go to ask Meltzer about that.
Yeah, I mean, this first match we had, I said, like you said, the Native American Tatanka, who you of course met at a store. So I mean, you said he's a cool dude. Taking on the Beast from the East, Bam Bam Bigelow, with, if you did not know, Luna Vachon is actually, when she's not have her head shaved, she's fairly attractive.
She's smoking, dude.
Yeah, she's she was his second. I mean, it was the first match. It went 8-12. Were you a fan of Bigelow's back in '94 WWF?
No, because they threw a gimmick on top of a gimmick. So obviously you have Bama, right? So you have Bam Bam Bigelow, looks cool. Not necessarily a big fan of the Flames, but whatever. But then what they did, it's like, we're gonna add more Flames. So they gave him an additional costume for God knows why. Having him with his main squeeze Luna is a nice touch. But again, this will always, it would just come late anyway to the $1 million corporation. So, basically, at that point, they did the Tatanka heel turn down the road, which was pretty cool. They were trying to trick everyone, saying Luger was going to turn heel and join the corporation, but it was Tatanka instead. So I thought that was cool. Bam Bam at this point, maybe not having the greatest matches in the world. Tatanka's solid. 8 minutes, 12 seconds. It's a throwaway match at this point. I mean, Bam Bam would go on to feud with the likes of Doink the Clown coming up real soon. So,
which is not Doink the Clown. Oh man, I mean, that was what were your thoughts on Doink the Clown? I mean, were you a big fan of
the heel?
Yeah, I love the evil Doink, the normal Doink. Yeah,
Matt Boone as Doink the Clown, the evil clown, was dope. As soon as they made him babyface, it was all over.
Yeah, I mean, this match was, like you said, it was it was what it was. I mean, Bam Bam, Tatanka, opening match.
They would do some fun stuff with Bam Bam. Like they did that whole LT thing, the following year. So that was really cool. Again, you had him in the corporation. They were doing some things with him. It's just at this point, it's just he's a gimmick on top of a gimmick dressed funny. And there's nothing intimidating. There's nothing realistic about Bam Bam Bigelow, who's just essentially a big goof who did cartwheels. I mean, Bam Bam Bigelow, the character, has always been, a rough and ready, super tough dude. He's gonna kick some ass. You watch his matches over in ECW, and the kind of stuff they were doing with him over there was fantastic. But in the WWF, he was like, oh, he's a joke. He was a joke.
Yeah, I mean, it was a joke. I mean, the next
good worker though.
Yeah,
he got a fucking great match out of LT, and LT's a non-wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, he could definitely, like you said. I mean, I was more of a fan of his than when he was in WCW. I mean, he was when what?
When in WCW?
No, I mean, I don't have a specific time frame. I mean,
that 90 run, that 89-90 run is the ass. That's because Ric Flair didn't like him, so he booked him like shit. And then he had a following run when he came back, and I thought it was going to be cool, right? It's like, oh, Bam Bam versus Goldberg, right? But even that got fucking thrown away.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a big marquee matchup. Would have been Bam Bam Bigelow versus Goldberg. That should have been main eventing a pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
In 1999. That would have been a dope fucking match. Bammer could work, and you could do some impressive stuff with Goldberg, him throwing him around and Bam Bam bumping like a boss for him. But unfortunately, his runs were stifled because, WCW, because Flair did not like him.
Yeah, I mean, if the booker doesn't like you, the guy who's putting things together,
Booker and top guy. It's like Terry Taylor with Dusty Rhodes.
Oh God, not the Red Rooster, Terry Taylor.
Dusty Rhodes with Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah. I mean, this next match we had was for the tag titles. The Quebecers, my buddy Quebecer Pierre and Quebecer Jacques, taking with Johnny Polo, aka
Mhm.
Raven, taking on Bret the Hitman Hart and Owen Hart for the tag
I
titles.
want to talk about Raven real quick. Johnny
Okay.
Polo. Johnny Polo, Scotty the Body, or Scotty Flamingo, is actually, I think, more closer to Raven's actual personality. Like, if you ever hear him talk or hear him on the shoot interviews, he's more like Johnny Polo than he is the kind of the brooding Raven character, which is hilarious to me because he's a
Yeah.
funny guy. He's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny how Quebecer Pierre, of course, PCO, he is. I mean, he has had a resurgence in his career. I mean, he's does crazy shit that I'd never thought I would see, and he's been on the show, and he's going to be back on the show in the next couple of weeks. He is just a good dude, and
I'm surprised WWE is not interested because you
yeah,
can like you put him in a match with like Bray Wyatt. That's an interesting thing to do. If you want to dust off the Undertaker and put PCO against the Undertaker, that's a possible matchup. A Braun Strowman again, the things you can do there. PCO will give you a lot of possibilities, especially for, I hate to say it, an overall stale WWE product right now.
yeah, man. I mean, and this match was. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was,
A lot
you
of
know,
interesting things here. But again, don't forget that Owen was pissed, because Survivor Series '94, he was the only one eliminated in the Hart family versus the Knights and Shawn Michaels. That's when Jerry Lawler was suspended because uh, he was accused of, I guess, in what's the word I'm looking for here? Sexual improprieties with underage girls. So he was taken off that show. He was replaced by a returning Shawn Michaels because Shawn Michaels was suspended for various reasons, steroids. It's not allegedly, that's true. I mean, I can't even that's just the reality of the situation.
I mean,
So Shawn comes back. He's with the Knights, which was like Greg Valentine and Barry Horowitz or whatever. And they had this match, and the Hart family wins out, but the only person eliminated was Owen because Bret kind of knocked into him on the apron, and Owen was pissed. So they do this whole thing all through December's. Owen's pissed. He's like he's talking shit about Bret, and they go into Christmas break, and then when they come back from the Christmas break, they do this promo. It was like, hey, me and Owen, we sat down during the holidays, we worked it all out, and we're going to channel our energy into winning the WWF Tag Team Championship, leading into the match at the Rumble here. Unfortunately, they were defeated by the Quebecers, and Owen gets pissed and kicks his leg out of his leg,
yeah, I
which
still,
led to a 5-star match at WrestleMania 10, which is fantastic. Owen Hart versus Bret.
yeah, I still say, what woulda, coulda, shoulda, what would have happened if he had not been a Blue Blazer? I mean, he would have definitely been in the Hall of Fame by now.
It would have been absolutely Hall of Fame, number one. Number two, there's a lot of things you could have done with Owen, especially with Kurt. The Jeff Kurt Angle Owen Hart match. There's things you can do, and they're both so ridiculous. You know what I mean? As characters,
Yeah,
like an interaction between Kurt Angle and Owen Hart would have been fucking money.
yeah. I mean, it's just, like you said, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I mean, this match, I mean, it was great. I mean, of course they retain the tag title, so they go on to the next show. They keep.
Don't think they even defend the belts on the next show. I think they're in I think there was some goofy 8-man that fucking got canceled with them.
Oh, I love a good 8-man. But next match is funny. I was the next match involved Razor Ramon taking on IRS for the Intercontinental title. It was funny. I was one of my buddies who does all the editing for All Elite Wrestling. He's a big friend of Cody Rhodes. They had the DDP Yoga holiday party at DDP's house, and of course the bad guy Razor Ramon was there, and it's just his holiday attire. That man lives the gimmick 24/7. I mean, that man will never not be Razor Ramon. I mean,
And it's funny because his transformation is stark.
yeah,
If you look at Big Scott Hall from the AWA, you look at Gator Scott Hall, Magnum I guess they call them Magnum Scott Hall, which is ridiculous. Like the way he looked up until 1991 and his post 1991 look are completely fucking different. Like it's almost insane. You can't even tell that it's the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, what were your thoughts on this match? I mean, were you a big IRS
Like,
fan?
why is IRS getting IC title matches in 1994? Is that the real question? Like that is the heart of, hey, we have a depth problem in the WWE roster in 1994. That's why you see in 95, especially in 96, they start bringing in a lot of WCW guys because they are razor thin in terms of a roster here. Like, should IRS be getting a shot here? No. Like he's a throwaway gimmick from a different generation almost. It's like, why is he here?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, the one
Mike Rotunda, he has good matches, just not as IRS, and Razor is again his work rate. Like when the light bulb clicked on, he became an amazing bell to bell worker.
Yeah, hey, and the one thing that that fans of the show know that never is dull and is never thin is your YouTube channel. I mean, it's coming towards the holidays. I mean, people have time off coming towards Christmas, the New Year's, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever Festivus, whatever you celebrate. People are gonna have time to binge watch your YouTube channel. But how can they get to your YouTube channel and on your Twitter page?
Well, you want to go to Retro Wrestling Game Presents on YouTube. We have over 350 videos. So if you like wrestling, if you like video games, you like all things pop culture, it's a channel that you should try. So just make sure that you subscribe, you hit the like button, hit the bell for your notifications, and leave a comment and tell me I'm cool, tell me I'm an idiot, and tell me whatever you want. Just leave a comment.
You're an idiot.
For the love of God, leave a fucking comment.
Yeah, it's funny, I got a comment. This is kind of going on a tangent, which this is I'm going on a tangent, but the comment that I've got through a friend on Twitter who's actually a good friend in real life, Rodney, huh?
We're friends.
I don't have a real
I
friend.
love Rodney. Rodney's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. He was like, you and Alex went on a tangent last week. So I said, okay, what was that? I was like, did Alex start? He was like, no, he never starts any tangents and goes off on some, rabbit hole. It was you. I'm like, really? So, Rodney, thanks for listening to the show. I mean, I know he's a big subscriber and a fan of your YouTube channel. I mean, he's definitely he's a binge listener, and a binge watcher, which is good.
To do it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things you sit down on Netflix, and watch, binge watch on HBO Silicon Valley, which is actually, I just found that show. Have you ever seen that show?
No, I only watch good TV shows.
So why
The Mandalorian.
So why the hell are you watching the National Wrestling Alliance if you like to watch good TV?
That show was not bad.
It's not bad, but I did find out the behind the curtains. A friend that I work with, he does cameras for the National Wrestling Alliance. He's good friends with Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana. He actually told me who the question mark was, and I looked at him and I was like, I know
who it is.
I mean, I know who. I mean, a lot of people. I was surprised, but not really. But speaking of the National Wrestling Alliance,
the question mark is Stagger Lee.
Yes, it is Stagger Lee. And speaking of the National Wrestling Alliance, they're going to be having their pay-per-view coming up this Saturday. I think it's going to be on fight.tv. You can, subscribe and get that. And then they're going back to the TV tapings on Monday and Tuesday of next week, the 15th or 16th.
The concept is something that's cool. So they're going to run all their TVs, and then they're going to have their big pay-per-view shows, and then they're going to run all their TVs, and it leads to another big pay-per-view show. So again, I like the way they're doing it. So
it's kind of funny. I don't think we've spoken since I watched the last episode of NWA Power. It was the final episode of the season. It was a season finale. It was pretty good. But I noticed, I'm not sure if you've noticed it or you watched it or you really care. They tried to edit out, and they didn't show Cornette much. They showed him at the end when the Rock and Roll Express won the ninth World Tag Team titles from the Wild Cards, I think they're called. But yeah, I mean, the reason I say that is because The next match we had on the card was Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and
American spokesperson Jim Cornette
and Master Fuji taking on the Undertaker.
Mr. Fuji. He's not Master Fuji. He's only Master Fuji when he's with Demolition and Crush.
I'm sorry. I apologize. It's Mr. Fuji, not Master Fuji. I'm sure I'm sorry. He's dead. So he probably won't complain, but that's beside the point. What were your thoughts on this match? I mean, it was 1994 Undertaker, 1994 Yokozuna. It was a casket match. It was imagine that, the Undertaker in a casket match.
I mean, Yoko and Taker would have better matches, for sure. This is not one of them. This is one of the more wrestle crap type deals here, especially with the way this match ends. And Taker would be gone for quite a while. I recently just watched Royal Rumble 96, and at that point we start seeing the Undertaker work rate matches, and the one in 96 has Bret. So we're not there yet in terms of, and like Yoko can have good matches, Taker is super athletic, they guys can have good matches, they just didn't have it here. And for whatever reason, and I do like Yoko as champ. I would have preferred Earthquake as champ if you want to have a big fat guy be champion. That's just me personally. I think babyface Earthquake is money, and there's no one in the world that will convince me otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I won't try to do that. But yeah, I mean,
so the finish of this match had like all the heels. So you had Crush, the Great Kabuki for reasons, Tenru, which I'm a big fan of, and all these, Adam Bomb, Jeff Jarrett, the Head Shrinkers, and Diesel. They beat the piss out of Undertaker and place him in the casket, and then the casket starts smoking, and the Undertaker ascends to the heavens.
I mean, that's about as dumb as when they blew up Vince McMahon in the limo.
It's pretty. It's new generation shit. Like it's like that kind of shit that makes you roll your eyes and like, let me see what Sting's doing over at WCW.
Yeah, man. I mean,
not that he was doing anything better because they would have exploding boats with midgets, but that's a whole other thing. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, man. I don't know what you're gonna do. I mean, it was a good match.
The rumor was that it was always Marty Jannetty who was attending to the
stealing things.
But I don't know. Like I think that's been debunked recently. So
yeah, and kind of I don't know why this. I think Marty Jannetty. Speaking of that, I mean, I'm not going to be attending this year because it's going to be in Florida. WrestleCon. Did you see who they have landed for WrestleCon this year?
Virgil.
No, that motherfucker. Oh God, I hope. He'll be there. Trust me, he'll be there.
Oh yeah, AEW legend Virgil. He's on all the shows now.
It's actually Soul Train Jones, but it's just it's one of those things. I mean, they have today. They announced that they're going to have Pete Rose, Mike Tyson, Christian, Bret Hart, Marty Jannetty, Dory Funk Jr., Bobby Fulton, Jordana Grace. I mean, it's going to be outside, which is kind of weird. But I mean, what are your thoughts on a Pete Rose coming to a wrestling event?
No, I think it's fine because I went to an autograph signing that had Dennis Rodman there, and I got a picture with Dennis Rodman, NWO stalwart Dennis Rodman. So like Pete Rose, he had a couple of shots in, with the whole Kane stuff. So, and he's a official WWE Hall of Famer. So.
Yeah, I mean some of the others.
They'll have a lot of baseball guys too.
Yeah, I mean the other people that have been announced, they have Sid Vicious. There must not be a There must not be a softball tournament that weekend.
He shows up because he's supposed to be. He was supposed to be like the 3 different autograph signings up here, and he no-showed them all.
And they have, of course, Ricky and Robert, the 9-time World Tag Team Champions. Scotty.
Yeah, go out of your way to meet the Rock and Roll Express. They're super nice.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume they are. I mean, they have.
Oh, they're fantastic. I know, like. I'm talking to Ricky, and he's trying to get me. He's trying to get me to buy all his swag. And like 2 seconds into it, I'm like, Ricky, whatever you got, I'm buying. because he's that charismatic. So like, if you want me to go out back in the van with you, I probably would at that point as well.
I mean, you probably would. I mean, hopefully you wouldn't go in the back of the van with Uncle Fred Ottman.
I love Uncle Fred and Shockmaster.
Yeah, but you know who?
Big Steel, I believe, in Florida. If you want to be a dick about it.
Yeah, well, you know,
Cheap tugboat.
you know who you would definitely go in the back of a van with?
Great Kabuki.
Tessa Blanchard. Holy crap! Of course, we have Magnum TA is gonna be there. Teddy Long, Dean Malenko, RJ City, Ethan Page, Bang Bang, Mr. Mick Foley, Tanilla Dashwood, you know who the hell?
You met her in person. Remember? I carried down her luggage.
Oh yeah, I was like, no, I'm not gonna carry you down your damn luggage. I was like, there's an elevator over there, and of course, no. Oh, Mr. Alex G, let me be Mr. Macho Man. I'm gonna carry you down. But I think that was the day that the escalator was not working.
Busted, and she was with Gail Kim, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Where did that lead? Nowhere. Just led to you.
Hey, you can't put a price on good manners.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They're a guest in my city. You gotta show them a good time.
I'm sure you did. But speaking of a good time, we had the main event. It was the 30-man over the top rope battle royal. Over the top rope battle royal. It's for a WWF World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania X10. Yes.
You want to go over the roster here? It's going to illustrate the point that how thin this roster is. So the roster, the entrances for the Royal Rumble are Scott Steiner, Samu, Rick Steiner, Quang, Owen Hart, Bart Gunn, Diesel, Bob Backlund, Billy Gunn, Virgil, Randy Savage, Jeff Jarrett, Crush, Doink the Clown, Bam Bam Bigelow doing double duty, Mabel, Thurman, Sparky Plug, Shawn Michaels, Mo, Greg Valentine, they dusted him off, Tatanka, the Great Kabuki, Luger, Tenru, Bash and Booger, who didn't show up because Shawn Michaels got him fired, Rick Martel, Bret Hart, Fatu, Marty Jannetty, and Adam Bomb.
Yeah, I mean, what were your thoughts on this match?
I like the whole Kabuki Tenru thing because they were, Mr. Fuji flown them in from the Orient, apparently, and he was supposed to get rid of Lex Luger, but it didn't work. I like the fact that the Steiner brothers were in there. That's cool. The finish of this match is dope, but that's about it. It's a very nondescript Royal Rumble. Like there would be other Rumbles, like with Diesel limiting like 90 people on his way to getting his big push. That wasn't this one. But yeah, like there's a couple of good spots in there, but it's better than these Royal Rumbles up until a certain point. They're much better than the ones today because the ones today are silly because what you have is two guys doing spots in the middle of the ring and everyone else is laying down. And now that I said that, you'll never be able to unsee it. See, the older Royal Rumbles, there's always action somewhere. Like, there's action all over the place. So you have one guy in a corner, you have another guy punching someone, someone's getting choked out in the ropes. Like, everyone's doing something. Now they just all lay down.
Yep.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of downtime. I mean, no wonder people can go.
There's people like I forget that people are still in the match and then they show up out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's 2019 WWF. Or WWE. So
it's just they have to get their shit in. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, you were happy with the winners of the Royal.
The finish is interesting because again you have Luger and Bret as the co-winners. Although I'm pretty sure that Luger touched first, but whatever. And it leads to at least an interesting story going into WrestleMania 10. Where both Bret and Lex are getting a shot at the WWF title, so that's fairly interesting. Although Luger, once again on the biggest stage, comes up short.
Yeah, I mean it's
like David Fine in the bedroom.
Hey, yeah. How did you know that?
Well, I hear things.
Hey, you read stuff. I mean, overall, this is
take down the cameras in your bedroom, then I wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, I should probably take those out, but it's not. Overall, what would you give this rating of the show? 1 to 10.
it's not the worst thing in the world. It has Todd Pettengill on it, so you get a half a point for that.
You a big Pettengill, Mark?
I am, because I'm a New Yorker.
I mean,
Todd Pettengill is a big time radio DJ here in New York. So
yeah, I won't hold that against you.
PLJ.
WPLJ. Yeah, I mean, I would give it probably a 6 or
5.
7.
It's right in the middle. I mean, it's not. There's nothing that's offensive about this show. It's
No.
just there's really nothing interesting about this show either. Like, you see the weird Undertaker angle. Okay, the finish of the Rumble itself is pretty interesting, but like I said, this show in particular shows how thin this roster is when you're dusting off guys like Greg Valentine and you have to bring in Tenryu and Kabuki from Japan.
Yeah, that's.
So
I mean,
Bash and Booger's still here. You have to dust off Rick Martel. It's a lot of dusting off of guys here. Virgil's around in 1994. You serious?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Well, again, they would pick up some more. Eventually they would start picking up some guys from the Indies, and they would start picking up like your Gold Dust, your Steve Austins, and your Mankind's, and eventually Vader, and so on and so forth from WCW to kind of fill out your roster. But again, business is down. So if business is down, you're not really going to bring in a whole lot of dudes.
No, you're not. I mean, it's kind of like now. I mean, business is down. People are are trying to get let go to go to other promotions, and they're not. But some people are getting let go.
They're
And
making money because their TV rights deal is so obnoxiously large. But yes, they're not drawing on a level for house show subscriptions are down. Whatever metric, merchandising is down. So whatever metric you want to look at to determine what your business is, yeah, they're down across the board except for their TV rights feed, which is so huge and it makes up. And that's the genius of Vince, right? That's the genius of Vince. It's always been that way. Vince McMahon did not win wrestling wars by having a superior in-ring product because he's never had it. He's won it in the boardroom, making these deals, whether it be for licenses, for toys, action figures, comic books, video games, posters. That's where he makes his money. He didn't make his money being like, having all these 5-star matches. So when the business is down, house show attendance falls or your roster is thin, you can always fall back on the other monies that he's, coming in, where like a Crockett Promotions, for example, never really had that money like that to fall back on when, because the wrestling business is very cyclical. So again, you're going to have good years, you're going to have bad years, you're going to have bad pay-per-views, you're going to have bad TV. It's going to happen. And a lot of these promotions, and AEW should learn from this, don't have that money coming in to kind of keep them afloat until their next quote unquote boom period.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, it's a wrestling business. I mean, it
Go up and down. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We're coming towards the end of the year and coming towards the end of this program today. The next 2 weeks we're going to be. I'm super excited. I got 2 legends coming in on the program, and then
Virgil.
no,
Ashton Booger.
no, you'll have to stay tuned and listen to figure out who the hell they are. But the
Clang.
but the first show, folks, January 1, 2020. We're going to be covering WrestleMania 1. We're going back all the way to the very first WrestleMania. And I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of fond memories of watching that as a young man on Long Island. What were your thoughts on WrestleMania 1 before we end the program tonight?
It's interesting because it's revered, and it probably shouldn't be, because I've seen MSG house shows that were better. There's like the Brawl that ended all. The entire show is better. So the War to Settle the Score, if you watch the whole show, not just what was played on MTV,
Yeah,
it's a better show. It's a weak card, but none of that shit fucking matters because it has Muhammad Ali and Mr. T and Cyndi Lauper, and the only matches that people care about was Wendy Richter taking on Leilani Kai and the main event. So, the fact that you have, hey, it's Tito Santana versus the Masked Executioner, awesome, and Ricky Steamboat versus Matt Bourne, cool.
boy, folks. I mean, if that is not a teaser to to fire up the old internet, the old.
Where's Dr. D. David Schultz? I know he slapped John Stossel, but that's not the real reason he got fired, folks. And we'll talk about that on the next show.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk about that. I mean, God, folks, I mean, we're starting off the new year with a bang. I mean, as you can hear, he's not a big fan of WrestleMania 1. I was actually a big fan of WrestleMania 1. We'll kind of debate that, but that's coming January 1st.
Like Craig Valentine's JYD match?
Yeah, I'm a big, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that come
January. Volkov and Iron Sheik versus Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that come January 1st. But the next 2 weeks, like I said, we have two legends coming on the program. If you want to know what they are, follow us on Twitter at the RW Rewind. I will reveal who they are in the next couple of weeks. But for the great Alex G, as always, I am David Fine. I'll talk to you next week and then week after that. And then we'll be back together January 1st, where we cover WrestleMania 1. As always, we'll talk to you in the past.
238 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his licks in on the bruiser.
Hulk Hogan.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.